Alrighty, howdy students. We're back today with something a little bit different. Today I've been asked to record a request video, which is the first time for me. And this one's for my friend, Mr. Big Time Player. I gotta say, I love the name, Mr. Big Time Player. That's what we need. We need more students who are looking to be big time players. And that's what we're all about here. As I keep saying, if you're a student looking for success, then this is the place to come because we want to help more students find success, become the best that they can be, because it's those kind of people that are going to help the world become a better place. You're going to be able to achieve what you want to achieve in life and be happy and make the world a better place. That's what we're all about. Today, a special request. It is how to write a university proposal statement or introductory statement, which I'm going to admit I'm not the expert on. I'm not a university counselor. I'm not a career guidance counselor by any stretch. I'm an English literature teacher and I look at innovations in education. But I'm going to go through and kind of give my take on it. And as such, I've asked the assistance of ChatGPT. ChatGPT's put together some great ideas. I have critically gone through and looked at this. I'm going to give my take on it, but you're going to be able to see kind of a shared response. The artificial intelligence has given me some research and an outline, and I'm going to talk you through my ideas on this. So, if that sounds like something that's going to be of interest to you, if you're doing your personal statement, or if you're a student looking at what you need to do in the future with writing a personal statement, this could really help you. But apologies, I'm not going to rush it. This is a request, and hopefully, Mr. Big Time Player is going to enjoy this one, and hopefully, it's really helpful. So, we're going to get started very shortly. Okay, so we're looking today at how to write a university personal statement. We're going to look at it from my point of view as the English teacher who knows how texts are put together. And we've analyzed a lot of text on this channel before, so hopefully the process will work for you. And the idea is that we're always looking when we're making a text or analyzing a text, what's the purpose? Who's the audience? How are we going to structure it? And what techniques are we going to use in order to position our reader to get the response that we want? Okay, so that's what we do when we analyze, and we're going to do kind of the reverse when we create this thing. We're going to start with a very clear reminder that all personal statements are not the same. If you're applying for university in the United Kingdom or in Europe, it's going to be different to applying in the United States or applying in Australia. So take these ideas and adapt them to the requirements that you need. But these ideas are going to be probably a great starting point. If I was to take these ideas and then just completely brainstorm my response, then you're going to be ready for anything. Anyone will be able to ask you about something, and you should have great evidence and great frames of response. And so this may not be exactly what you need for your particular response. You know, it might not be perfect for UCAS or for the core application in the US, but these are the ideas that will go into it and you will be able to adapt. I'll give you some pointers as we go along, but make sure you know that not all personal statements are the same. With all texts, if I'm analyzing them, if I'm creating them, I think number one, the most important place to start is the purpose. So we are looking at a personal statement. What is a personal statement trying to achieve? And I think we start with a very simple, obviously, it's an introductory statement. You're introducing yourself to the university. But if you're starting and ending there, it's going to be pretty weak. Okay, you've got to do a lot more than that. The purpose is to do more than just introduce yourself. You want to be showing the university that you want to study at this university. You want to show that you have genuine motivation to study. You want to demonstrate that you are prepared and that you are suitable to study this subject at this university. You want to show your intellectual and personal qualities. You want to go beyond just this is who I am as to this is why I'm really qualified and I'm really good and I'm the kind of person that you want. You want to distinguish yourself through the use of specific evidence. not just telling stories about yourself, not just by throwing down what subjects you've done, but specific evidence that distinguishes you as a quality applicant. And ultimately, you want to persuade the reader that admitting you makes perfect sense. They want you to be part of their team. That's the feeling that you want them to have at the end, ultimately. You want them to read your letter and say, this is the kind of person who's going to make this university a better place. So you're not just asking the university to take a chance on you, you're giving them reasons to believe that choosing you would be a sensible decision. That's what chat's given us. I would go a little bit further. You want the university to say, this is the kind of person who is going to make this place better, and we want them here. That's what I would be looking for. That's the purpose. The jobs, clearly it's to introduce. Clearly you want to go beyond introduce to impress them. You want to show them. And it's not going to be impressive by just making grand statements and throwing in big, massive words that you think is going to show off, but you're going to impress them by showing the quality of thinking and by showing them the kind of person that you are. You want to persuade them by giving them the ethos and the pathos and the logos to say, you're the kind of person that should be here. And you want to position the reader, the university guidance counselor, whoever is reading it, to show that you are going to be a successful member of the academic community. You're going to bring something good to this place and you're going to help to progress it. So maybe do some research, find out exactly the universities that you're looking at and find out what they're looking for particularly. But you want to do those things. Introduce yourself, impress them, persuade them, position them to see you as somebody who is worthy of bringing into their organization. Simple but effective place to start. Second, I would consider who our audience is. So who are we trying to impress? Who are we trying to persuade? If we really know who they are, then we can start to think about really shaping up our letter of introduction. Now, the audience it may be one admissions officer. It could be a whole admissions team. It could be a tutor. It could be someone who's just supposed to read a particular stage of the process. So make sure, number one, that you're following all the rules, because that first stage might be simply, have they followed the rules? Yes. Next stage, no, you're out. So make sure that you have followed the rules. Have you written in the right academic register? Maybe that's the second stage or possibly even the first stage. They're going to read it and they're going to say, do they go to the next stage or not? So that's an important thing to consider. But once we've got past that, what are these people who are going to be reading your letter looking for? And they're generally looking for some version of these questions. Does this student understand what they're applying for? Are you capable of what you are looking to do? Are they genuinely interested in the subject? Have they prepared themselves for advanced study? Can they think, communicate, and reflect? Does the evidence support the claim being made? Your claim is that you're a superstar ready to take up a position and make the university a better place. Then you need to have these things considered. Okay? The big consideration here as well is that you're writing for a human audience and you are not simply giving credentials. A lot of your application is probably going to give your grades and the subjects you studied and the things that you did, but your letter of introduction wants to go further than that. It wants to show the kind of person you are and give the values. And when that audience is reading it, they want to get a sense of who you are beyond just credentials. Everyone's going to be giving a list of credentials, but you want to go beyond giving a list of credentials. You want to be exploring these things, giving what do they reveal about things. You want to be going further. A simple credential is, I completed a work experience placement at a hospital. This gives what you did. But if you want to go further to show what does it reveal about you and to show some of your values, you want to go further to say, during my hospital placement, I observed how doctors adjusted their explanations for frightened patients and concerned relatives. It made me recognize that medical expertise is inseparable from communication, patience, and trust. This goes from the credential to showing who you are and giving the values. And that's what the readers of your application are looking for. In this very simple example, it shows that you've got observation. It shows that you have maturity. It shows that you've got communication awareness. You've got empathy. You can reflect, and that you understand the profession beyond the basic subjects. Okay? So this is what the letter's trying to do. We kind of know who our audience are. What are their values? What are the things that they would love to see and that you're trying to communicate to them, to win them over, to position them to see you as a quality candidate? Well, it shouldn't come as any surprise. They're academics working at a university. They want to be able to infer from this intellectual curiosity, academic discipline, independence, resilience, initiative. I could read them all. They're on there for you. You can pause and then you can make decisions. But those are the things that you would imagine that this is what the audience is looking for. So in your personal statement, it's going beyond introducing you. It's trying to impress. It's trying to persuade. We know the audience. The audience is academics who work in a university who are inspired by this kind of work, and they're looking for you to have these kind of values, and that's what's going to get them excited. If they see someone who's got intellectual curiosity, discipline, they're independent, they can go through challenges, and they've got empathy and commitment and a willingness to ask questions, then they're going to get excited that this is somebody that they want to have in their institution. So this is the mindset that you've got to take into the next stages. We know our purpose. We know our audience. We've thought about how we're going to position them. Now we're going to think about writing this application letter. Again, it's going to be different depending on which application you're doing. So don't take this as just a one thing fits all. This is general advice. Okay, but generally, a personal statement is a hybrid genre. It is not one particular thing. At school, you would have been studying all these types of writing: persuasive writing, reflective writing, academic writing, personal narrative, professional communication, especially if you studied language and literature, or even studying English B, language acquisition, or studying any English course around the world. You're going to know these types of writing, but it's not one of these. It mixes these things. So it's not quite the autobiography. You're not just telling your life story. It's not a cover letter, just going through your ideas. It's kind of that. It's not a list of achievements. If that's all you're doing, that's a waste of time. It's definitely not a motivational speech. But if you can bring in some sense of motivation, that might be very powerful for you to do. It's not a creative writing competition. Maybe some applications have elements of that. Some particular applications, if you are talented at creative writing, then lean into that, because that will give you strength. And if you're going into an arts college and you want to show your artistic skill, of course, I would suggest you do that. And it's not a straight academic essay, though it's going to definitely use some of those components. So it's an interesting genre, okay? What is the reader expecting from this writing? They're expecting it to be personal but relevant. They do want you to have personal story. It's all about you, but it's got to be relevant in order to show those skills and those values that your audience wants to hear. It's got to be confident. You have to sound like that you are ready to take on the challenge. You're the person to choose, but it's got to be credible. You don't want to sound like you're way over the top. This is ridiculous. You're too confident for someone who's just starting out at university. It's got to be reflective, but you don't want to go on a ramble for 3 pages about how you're interested in this and how you learned this and you learned that. It's focused to showing those things we just talked about. You want to have it polished, but it doesn't want to be so polished that you have no voice. You've got to have some sense of being natural. This is who I am. And day to day, this is what I'm going to bring. You need to be specific and concise. It says but concise, but I think they go together quite well. You've got to be enthusiastic, but not exaggerated. You don't want to be telling us a love story about how you really want this and it's been your dream forever and you don't want to sound, a little bit over the top. You want to sound calm. You want to sound a little bit of all these things come together. And that tension is at the heart of the genre. And I think that's why a lot of students struggle with this, because they know it's a difficult genre to write, but it should sound like the best, clearest, and most thoughtful version of you. Not like an adult copywriter. It's not a thesaurus. It's not artificial intelligence system. It should sound like you, your best version, who is personal but relevant, who is confident but credible, who is reflective but focused, and so on. Okay, so now we're getting an idea of the genre. You got to start to think about how you're going to show all those things. And now we're thinking about, what does the actual format look like? What are the things we want to do? So as I said, it's not a list of credentials, and it's not any one of those specific genres that you can just follow. A useful model is the idea that you're introducing yourself and that you want to show through your experiences that you have these traits and qualities, but also that you've got reflection, and you can show through these experiences that you have the qualities and the values that this university is highly valuing. So you want to think of experiences that you can explore deeply, that have given you insight in a relevant way, that shows that you have the qualities and the traits that a university wants, and also that you have the values that they're really going to enjoy having at their university. There are some examples. You can pause and read through all of these, but I don't want to spend too long reading through all of this. But the idea is that you want to give examples, clear examples of what you have done, and reflect on them so that you can show what you encountered. You can show that interest. You can show what you did. How did it lead you to do new things? It can show what you thought, and it can show why it matters. And through that, you are going to be showing the qualities of your academic discipline, your inquiry, and your interest. It's going to show your values. If you can bring in empathy and you can bring in curiosity, etc., then great. You've hit the golden mark, that you are showing the traits they want to hear about. You're showing you have the quality. You're showing that you've got the values that they want. That's what you want to be doing. Okay, so we're getting the idea. Basically, here's a structure that could help you shape that up. You've thought about now the purpose, the audience. You've thought about hopefully some experiences that are going to target those traits and qualities and those values you want. Now, how are we going to structure it up? These are kind of the 4 parts that you want to do throughout. If you want to get creative with it, that's fantastic. But if you are not the most creative and you want a simple idea, this is a 4-part personal statement. You want to, in the beginning, create the argument. Here's the direction that we're going on. This is what you want to study and why you want to study it. And very much you want to show some things. They're going, okay, this is what you want. What do they want to hear from it? They want to hear those values and attitudes coming through. So in the beginning, you want to create your argument. This is why you should be the person that they pick, because you've got the interest in the subject. You've got meaningful questions. You've got experience. You've got good ideas. You've got a clear academic direction. You are going to get involved in this university, in this subject, and you are looking to really progress things. This is your chance to really show why you want to. A weak kind of introduction would be, ever since I was 5 years old, I've always wanted to study law. That's what I hear a lot of students come up with, and I'm sure that the academic review panels hear that all the time. What you want to show is something that shows more of those qualities. So my interest in law developed from noticing how the same dispute can be framed as a question of individual freedom, public safety, or social responsibility. This is a much stronger version. It immediately communicates not just the interest for what you want to study, not just the critical thinking and the questioning, not just an understanding of what the actual study of law is about. It just shows straight away that you have done the work, that you are thinking about getting involved way more than a dream from 5 years old. Some kind of vague statement of what you want. It shows someone who's ready, someone who's critical, someone who's enthusiastic and wants to get involved. That's so much better. So think about how you frame these things. Okay, moving on. Part two. The second part you want to bring in is academic evidence. And again, it's not stating a whole list of what you have done, but this is the evidence that shows that you are prepared to study. And yes, you can consider looking at relevant subjects, the extended essay, research projects that you've done, assessed work, different experiments you might have done, presentations, all the rest. You want to go through and look at all of the things that you have done that have prepared you for this in an academic sense, in a real prepared for the study area, and pick and choose. Be selective. Don't just throw a whole list of things. What you want to do is use this kind of outline of what I studied, what I did with it, and what it revealed. And of course, all in relation to showing the qualities and traits and values that are going to help to show you as a real quality candidate. So, for example, studying statistics taught me to distinguish correlation from causation, but applying this distinction to public health reports showed me how easily numerical evidence can be misinterpreted. This strengthened both my qualitative reasoning and my interest in responsible data analysis. This shows so much more than saying I studied top maths and I studied chemistry and I studied biology at this level or that level. It's one study that you did applied with some reading that you did with a question of the real world that you have been contemplating that has shown you something. This shows you're a university level student. You can show how things are working together. You're making connections. You're applying it to the real world. You sound like someone who's going to add value to the university and to the subject as a whole. That's what they're dying to hear, and that's what they'd love to hear from you. So, good idea to consider, again, the framing. Part three, you want to look at your supercurricular. And we say supercurricular, not just extracurricular. A lot of students are going to want to have 50 things that they list out to show just how much they've contributed to the school and how varied and interesting they are. But doing that is kind of pointless. We say supercurricular because this is the evidence that shows that you're really interested in the subject you want to study, and it shows the skills that you're going to bring to this study and to the university within this field. Okay, so you can have a look at that whole list. There's so many extracurricular things that you could do, but if you're just throwing on, I was captain of the sports team, which showed me leadership, if that has got nothing to do with the subject that you want to study, it's not going to help you all that much. It's going to show, okay, you play sports. Maybe if the university really has a great sports program and that's what they want to bring you in for, great. But if you want to do law or medicine, it's not really going to help your application. You got to use your words for things that are going to help. So go through your whole list and be selective, or make sure everything that you've done, you can relate it to the field. You've got to make sure that it's focused, okay? The crucial part, it's not the activity, it is the reflection. So just, I attended a lecture, completed an online course, read 3 books. Sounds great, listing a lot of things, as I've just said, but that doesn't tell me anything about the qualities, the traits, and the values that you have. I'm not hearing this kind of connection with what I want as the reader. But a stronger one is a lecture on behavioral economics challenged my assumptions. So this shows your academic thought processes. It shows your critical thinking. Challenge my assumptions that people generally make decisions in their own rational self-interest. I followed this by reading about loss aversion. This shows you have inquiry, curiosity, and the work ethic to follow up. Okay, it shows also that you are talking about behavioral economics, assumptions, loss aversion. You've got good academic language for one, but also you know the subject, you know the question, the concept points of the subject. That's fantastic. I'm going to buy into this kind of student who's ready to take that step. So I followed this by reading about loss aversion and began noticing how the framing of choices influence consumer behavior. And so again, making connections, joining things together, relating it to the real world. This is a university level student. You're ready to jump into my university, make the place a better place by asking really good questions, using critical thinking, making assumptions, making theories and hypotheses. That you will be able to contribute and question with fellow students here at the university. That's what we want to hear. We don't want to hear a list of all the different things you did. We want to hear that you're a great candidate. And part four, to bring things home, you've got to show that you're ready to contribute. Okay, so your readiness and contribution. So, what kind of university student will you be? Hopefully, this is coming through in parts 1, 2, and 3. If you've framed it right, if you've done the background work and you've thought about it really well, by the time you get to part 4, we should be driving it home, maybe bringing in a bit more of that feeling. And we don't want our conclusion to say, therefore, I believe I'm a perfect candidate. You should have made the arguments already, and that should stand on its own. Maybe you want to underline it, but we want to go for a nice, strong ending that adds something to this. We want to show motivation. We want to show preparation, intellectual direction, future aims, readiness for the demands of the course. Anything that you've missed in parts 1 to 3, you can bring in strongly here. Or this is adding the extra layer on the end to really show that you can bring it home strong. For example, these experiences have made me eager to study the relationship between biological systems, technological innovation, and ethical decision making in greater depth. I am particularly attracted to the independence and analytical challenge of degree level study. So I'm ready to study at a higher level than I've ever studied before. I'm not just wanting to study a subject, I'm looking how these connections can be made, and I want to work with other people who are doing this kind of work. This is what you're saying in your final statement. There are many ways you could do it, but I think we can leave it for now. Now that we've kind of thought about it, I think you've probably got enough to get you going with. You've thought about the purpose, you've thought about the audience, and you've thought about the genre. You probably need to pause there and get your ideas on what are your qualities, what are your traits, what are your values, how can you position the reader with great experiences that you have. You can kind of put it into an order and go, we want to start with this, build into that. Now we can start to think maybe what are the kind of techniques that we use in order to position. And it's an interesting genre, as we said, and at the heart of it, it is a persuasive text, but you've got to be careful. It is an academically persuasive text for an expert audience, and you've got to really understand the balance that you've got to play with these things. But it is persuasive. So I'm looking at that ethos, logos, and pathos. Hopefully, many of you have studied that at school, so you know what that is. But ethos, we want to make the reader trust you. Again, those qualities have got to come through very strongly, that you're hardworking, you're passionate, you're probably a leader, if not a leader of others, at least you lead yourself and you can be independent, and that you are highly motivated. And ethos comes from credible evidence and an intelligent voice. Confidence and credibility comes from that voice. You got to sound like you are a person of quality, and that doesn't come by saying that I have this, and it doesn't come by just listing things that you've done. It comes through in evidence with reflection and a strong voice. Students create ethos by demonstrating knowledge of the subject, informed motivation. That informed is important. Sustained engagement, okay? Honesty, mature reflection, precise communication, awareness of limitations. It's all right to have limitations. If you're aware of it, the university is quite happy to say, okay, you know where you fall down, and we want to help you with that, okay? And consistency between claims and evidence. So we could unpack all of these, and we could take hours unpacking all of these, but give you the credit to know that you probably understand what we're talking about. If not, ask me questions and we can follow up. But weak ethos is just stating what you are. I am extremely passionate about psychology. I've always been fascinated by people. Just saying it doesn't sell it to me. I'm not positioned to feel it. Anyone can say it. But studying conformity made me reconsider how confidently we can separate individual choice from social influence. This is somebody who is making bold statements, somebody who knows the subject and can state it clearly. I became particularly interested in the methodological difficulties involved in measuring behavior under artificial conditions. So, this is somebody who is interested, who has a real curiosity in the subject, who's done work on the subject, and I have got the idea that this person is ready to study. There's ethos in this. So the formula is they've got a claim, we've got precise evidence, and we've reflected. That's exactly what that example does. We had a study. Here's my evidence of what I did, what I thought, and the reflection. This is how it's changed my thought. We don't want a list of adjectives ever. Logos, very clearly, this should be quite obvious, but we want the application to make sense. The university should be able to say straight away, yeah, perfect sense. This person, this candidate makes perfect sense. They're the person we need to have here. And the reader should be able to follow the logical argument. They should be able to follow, this is your application, this is your interest. You got to show that why you're following this up, how you're going to be a good student. And that should be fairly straightforward. But one thing which I noticed from my own subject, students studying literature, that students don't always follow through on their chain of reasoning. They like to state things, but like with everything I've said, we don't want lists. We don't want a lot of fancy words. We want the chain of reasoning. So you can use some of these logical constructions to make sure that you've got the chain of reasoning. I did this, which led to that. As a result of this, I began to, and you've got a few there that you can work with. So what we're looking for is the intellectual movement, okay? Not just this is who I am and these are my credentials, which is a lot of debating students I see just the WHO said this, and here's a piece of data, here's a statistic. That's not logos. You've got to show the chain of reasoning. So make your audience feel it. Pathos, and again, this must be handled carefully. Giving feeling is very important. Creating some pathos, some feeling is really important, but you don't want it to come across as if you're trying to manipulate the reader. You're not trying to create a tear-jerking story. You're not trying to make them feel sorry for you or feel overblown inspiration. You want to create this feeling of curiosity, admiration, confidence, warmth, interest, respect, a sense of possibility that you could be this really great person to bring into the organization, someone who's going to fit, and we want you to come and join us, that kind of feeling. And there's examples there, but we're not going to read all of the examples. We know, hopefully, from the study of English language and literature and whatever you've studied, how to create some pathos. Okay, but here's some techniques for it anyway. Like pathos comes through great with personal stories, but again, do not merely tell the stories for a dramatic effect. Everything's got to be focused and it's got to be relevant. You want to have the stories that go from just this is who I am to stories that show response, what you learned, that you're ready, those qualities that you are really trying to sell. You can use imagery, metaphor, and illusion, but again, strong warning for you to handle with care. If you use imagery, yes, a very good small concrete detail will bring your writing to life, and it will make it much more convincing and enjoyable for the reader if you can use a really nice image to sell it. But if you are going on a tangent trying to create this imagery, it's not going to work. Again, you can read the examples. We're not going to stop for that. A metaphor is very much the same. Again, be careful. An extended metaphor can be really powerful. and it's possibly one thing that I might do if I'm going to an arts university or to study literature. Be careful with it, but an extended metaphor, like a building bridges kind of metaphor that carries through your letter, or light darkness metaphor, if you want to be really inspirational, could work. But again, you've got to be careful and you've got to use it sparingly. Don't, you're not writing a novel. Allusions can also be very powerful. If you've done your research, if you're applying to particular universities and you've got allusions that are going to grab their attention because it speaks to who they are and what they're interested in, it's going to work. But simple mentioning a name is not going to get you points. Mentioning a name with some reflection that shows your qualities, that's going to get you points, and it's something that you can do well. Personal voice, again, we've kind of mentioned it before, but it means that your statement contains things. It's not just you sounding like who you are on the everyday. It's you showing your sense of observation, your sense of priorities, your sense of connecting ideas, the kind of intellectual questions that you ask, and your honest reflections. It's an academic piece of writing, so you've got to hit the register. But by showing these things, it shows you are unique and that you're a special kind of student that we want to have. And again, we're going very long, so I'm not going to read all the examples. You can always pause and read through all of this at your own time. If you are struggling to find your voice, you might take time to ask some of these questions. You should all obviously be looking at what's your interests, but what surprised you can give you a kind of little bit of voice that makes things different. What you disagreed with, that very strongly shows who you are and your voice. Things that you didn't understand in the beginning, etc. And so those things are going to be very helpful. What the admissions team do not want to hear, and students often try to throw in there, empty declarations, like I've always been passionate about. Like, those are empty statements. They don't work. They don't sell. We've already probably sold that to you. You've got to have the reflections and the clear examples that show it. Just telling us doesn't do anything. Showing it, that's what works. Lists, I think we've made the point that lists are not going to work. Repeating the application. Do not use valuable space to reproduce grades and qualifications. If you've already listed your subjects and your grades somewhere, you don't want to have too much repetition. It's wasted words. Generic praise of the subject. Look, we know that medicine is a very rewarding career. You stating it doesn't add anything to it at all. Excessive childhood narratives. You're going way back to childhood, or excessive narratives at all. Nicely chosen anecdotes that are nice and quickly told, that give the evidence of the qualities that you have. Brilliant. Long stories and you're wasting time and it doesn't fit the genre. So try not to do that. Forced quotes, throwing in a quotation from someone famous just because you think it makes you sound intelligent, is pointless, and I wouldn't do that ever. Overtly elaborate vocabulary, trying to sound intelligent through fancy words, is often a clear way to show that you are not confident about your intelligence. You've got to sound like yourself. If you naturally do it and you have an eloquence and a beautiful way of expressing yourself through advanced vocabulary, and you're quite a loquacious person, then do it. And if that's the subject you're going for and you can sell it and it sounds beautiful, it's going to be brilliant. But if you're not, don't try it. It's not going to work. Unsupported qualities, again, just saying you're resilient, it doesn't tell me anything. You need to show me compassionate, organized, a leader. You've got to give us the examples. That's how we've got. Exaggerations, administration staff, they see these over and over and over again, and they know that you're a 17-year-old or 18-year-old. You want to sound realistic. You don't want to go way over the top. And I think we've already mentioned the extracurricular stuff. So we finally made it to the end. I know this is not a perfect breakdown, but hopefully it's helpful. A strong personal statement's not about trying to sound perfect. It's about making a clear, credible case for who you are, what you care about, and why you're ready for the next step. And I don't think we need to read the whole outro here, but you want to make claims, you got to prove them, and then explain them with real reflection. You are showing that you are the perfect candidate for the university, because you've got the traits, the qualities, and the values that are going to fit, and that you are going to bring something valuable to the institution. And it's going to be a marriage made in heaven when your qualities and your values match what the university wants. Then you have a great opportunity of being accepted. I hope that helps. In future, I would love to hear more requests, and I've really enjoyed going down this road because it's helped me to think about the overall education process. So, Mr. Big Time Player, hopefully that's helped you. If anyone's got any questions or any future requests, put it in the comments. I'm happy to be here and to help, and keep striving to be those big time players out there, because that's what the world needs more of. And for today, that's all I've got. Thank you very much for listening.